With that, you are watching NewsX Deep Dive. When we talk about the union budget, the conversation usually stays close to home. Taxes, inflation, fuel prices, subsidies, what gets cheaper, what gets more expensive, and how the budget affects the lives of ordinary Indians. But the union budget does something else as well. Something quieter, but just as important. It sends messages. Messages to India's neighbors, messages to partners and allies, messages to regions where India wants influence and to regions where it is choosing caution. Let's look into India's foreign aid allocation in the Union Budget 2026 and how it has changed when compared with the Union Budget 2025. This is not just about how much money India is giving, this is about who India is backing, who it is pulling away from, and how India is reshaping its foreign policy using the budget itself. For the financial year 2026 to 27, India has allocated Rs 5,686 crore as aid to foreign countries. In the Union Budget 2025, this figure stood at 5,483 crores. This is an increase of a little over 200 crores, roughly 4%. At first glance, this looks like stability, a modest rise, no dramatic expansion, no sudden cuts. But foreign aid is not designed to be dramatic. It is designed to be strategic. And when we go beyond the headline number and examine the distribution country by country, a very different story begins to emerge. Before we look at individual countries, it is important to understand one thing clearly. Foreign aid is not a welfare scheme. It is not humanitarian generosity alone. It is a tool of foreign policy. Every rupee allocated or withdrawn reflects a calculation about trust, about stability, about strategic value, and about risk. That is why the changes between Budget 2025 and Budget 2026 matter. Let us begin with Bangladesh, because this is where the change is the sharpest. In the Union Budget 2025, India had allocated 120 crores as foreign aid to Bangladesh. In the Union Budget 2026, this allocation has been reduced to Rs 60 crore, a 50% cut in a single year. This is not routine adjustment. This is one of the steepest reductions in India's foreign aid allocations this year. Bangladesh has traditionally been one of India's most important neighbors. The two countries share a long land border. There is deep economic interdependence. Cooperation on security, counterterrorism, and border management has been critical. For years, India's aid to Bangladesh has been part of a broader effort to support stability and connectivity in Eastern South Asia. A cut of this scale signals something important. It suggests that New Delhi is reassessing the relationship. It reflects growing uncertainty and friction, and it shows that India is no longer willing to maintain aid levels without clear strategic comfort. In diplomacy, budgets often speak more honestly than speeches. This cut is a message quiet but unmistakable. Now place Bangladesh next to Bhutan and the contrast is striking. Bhutan continues to be the largest recipient of Indian foreign aid. In the Union Budget 2026, Bhutan has been allocated approximately 2,289 crore. In the Union Budget 2025, the allocation was around 2,150 crores. That is an increase of more than 130 crore. Bhutan alone accounts for nearly 40% of India's total foreign aid budget. This is not accidental. Most of this aid is directed towards hydropower projects, transport infrastructure, and long-term development partnerships. These are projects that are closely monitored, strategically important, and mutually beneficial. Bhutan is not just a neighbor, it is a strategic buffer, a reliable partner, a country where India's investments translate directly into influence and stability. Between Budget 2025 and Budget 2026, Bhutan's position remains unchanged and strengthened. This is what trust looks like in budgetary terms. Moving on to Nepal, we see a quieter but important shift. In Budget 2026, India has allocated around 800 crores in aid to Nepal, a slight increase from the previous year. This reflects India's continued focus on connectivity projects, energy cooperation, and cross-border infrastructure. The increase is not dramatic, and that itself is the point. Nepal's allocation suggests stability, not urgency. It signals a relationship that is being managed carefully without sudden moves in either direction. The Maldives continues to receive significant attention. In Budget 2026, India has allocated close to 550 crore to the Maldives, broadly in line with the previous year. The Indian Ocean region has become a space of intense strategic competition. Ports, shipping lanes and maritime influence matter even more than ever. By maintaining aid levels, India is signaling continuity and commitment without escalation. This is influence through presence, not pressure. Sri Lanka, still recovering from an economic crisis, continues to receive Indian support. The allocation in Budget 2026 stands at around 400 crores, similar to Budget 2025. India's approach here is cautious but consistent. The focus is not on expanding aid rapidly, but on ensuring economic stabilization and long-term recovery. This reflects a shift from crisis response to sustained engagement. Now we come to the most dramatic shift between the two budgets. The Chabahar port project in Iran. In earlier budgets, including the Union Budget 2025, Chabahar had a dedicated allocation. It was projected as India's gateway to Afghanistan and Central Asia, bypassing Pakistan and opening new trade routes. In the Union Budget 2026, the allocation for Chabahar is zero. This is not a delay, this is a pause. Geopolitical pressure, international sanctions and regional instability have made the project increasingly uncertain. By removing Chabahar from the budget, India is choosing strategic caution over geopolitical ambition. It is a clear signal that risk assessment now outweighs long-term projection. When we place the Union budgets of 2025 and 2026 side by side, a clear pattern emerges. Total foreign aid has increased slightly, but the direction of aid has changed sharply. Bangladesh sees a major cut. Bhutan gains more strength. Nepal and Maldives are reinforced. Sri Lanka is stabilized, and Chabahar is put on hold. This is not random budgeting. This is policy by design. What the Union Budget 2026 shows us is clear. India is no longer just spreading aid evenly or on autopilot. Every rupee now carries a purpose. It flows where trust is strong, where partnerships are reliable, and where the strategic value is clear. Aid is reduced where risks are high, uncertainty has grown, or outcomes are unclear. This is not a step back from global engagement, but a careful rebalancing of priorities. Through numbers, India is quietly sending a message about where it stands, who it stands with, and how it plans to shape its role in a changing regional and global landscape. The story of foreign aid in this budget is a story of strategic foresight and measured ambition. Dr. Sharat Kohli, a senior economist, now joins me for more on this. Sir, of course, now the Chabahar port we're seeing a marked shift in its allocation. What does this zero allocation for Chabahar this year signify, considering the fact that this is or was India's gateway to a broader region?
Good morning, Medha, to you, NewsX viewers. I think this is, as you said, this is a clear indication of a blend of strategy, a blend of diplomacy, and of course, a blend of mutual interest. And we should not forget neighborhood first policy also, which is reflective in this allocation. The Chabahar port is very obvious. India doesn't want to get caught between the crossfire between Iran and the US. The sanctions imposed on Iran, threaten 25% more tariffs. As it is, we are struggling to do the deal with the US, which is likely to happen. Most probably, as the Commerce Minister said, that most of the sticky points have been sorted out. There are no sticky points. So we are probably on the verge of doing the deal, although it just keeps becoming elusive. But then there is always a big hope that it might happen soon. So you don't want to disturb that deal by giving more to Chabahar, because then you're going to get more sanctions and it'll be waste of money. And also, the important point which needs to be mentioned here, Medha, is that strategically India has realized what it had invested in Chabahar. So it's not been a loss-making deal, although a lot of taxpayers' money was invested. But what we have redeemed out of it, by way of making it as a route for trade, although it would have been better had it survived for longer, we would have probably gained more. But then we realized not that the money has gone into nothing and we've lost everything. So we pretty much realized. As for Bangladesh, I think the aid should have ideally been zero because because the way Yunus government has been, as far as India is concerned, the way Hindus are being targeted there, the way remarks or comments being made about India, Indian religious places being damaged, vandalized. I think the aid ideally should have been zero, but I'm sure Ministry of External Affairs must have been having its own reasons for still allocating. We are still trying to show we are benevolent, even though you are trying to be so offensive. We are still trying to help you as far as possible. Sri Lanka, as you said, remains neutral. Bhutan is a very important strategic partner because, this is also an attempt to see that the Chinese, dominance in the region, Southeast Asia, doesn't go to a level where we are decimated and we do not have any say in that region. So Bhutan has been a very close friend of India. And the Bhutanese king also came here, and it's a tiny mountain country, but strategically, because of hydropower, as you rightly said, it assumes a lot of significance. Yes, that's a very interesting observation. It is driven by diplomacy, driven by strategy, driven by neighborhood first policy. And, if there is a crisis, if this aid is being sanctioned, we should keep in mind, Medha, that tomorrow if there is a crisis-like situation in this country, India will not hesitate to sanction more. If there is an emergency, we will not step back and we will sanction more. We should keep in mind that budget is not end of the story. Every Wednesday, Medha, Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs meet, and there are new economic decisions which are taken. There are mini budgets literally coming out every week. So I think budget is an important milestone, no doubt, that the whole balance sheet of the country is presented before the parliament, but that's not the end of the story. And we are still open to, if the situation demands, this policy can be tweaked according to the requirements made up.
Dr. Sharad Kohli, thank you so much for sharing all those details with us. Meanwhile,